It was the final night before dawn. A teenage queen sat alone in the cold silence, knowing that when the sun rose, she would walk toward the executioner's block. She was Catherine Howard, the fifth wife of Henry VIII. History remembers her as an unfaithful queen, but was that the whole truth? Or was she a frightened young woman trapped inside one of the deadliest royal courts in history? Tonight, we'll uncover the untold story of Catherine Howard's final night and decide whether her greatest crime was truly betrayal or simply being young, beautiful, and dangerously close to a king who trusted no one. But to understand that final night, we must first return to the beginning. When Catherine Howard first arrived at the Tudor court, she was barely more than a girl. She came from the powerful Howard family, one of England's greatest noble houses. Yet despite her famous name, Catherine's childhood was far from perfect. Raised in the household of the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk, she grew up in an environment where discipline was often relaxed. Young noblewomen enjoyed freedoms that would later prove dangerous in the unforgiving world of the Tudor court. As a teenager, Catherine formed relationships that seemed ordinary at the time. No one, not even Catherine herself, could have imagined that years later those youthful choices would be used against her. Then fate placed her directly before the most powerful man in England. Henry VIII. By then the king was no longer the handsome prince Europe had once admired. Years of injuries, illness, and heartbreak had changed him. He walked with difficulty. He suffered constant pain, and after the collapse of several marriages, he longed for happiness once again. Then Catherine entered his life. She was young, beautiful, energetic, always smiling. To the aging king, she seemed like hope itself. He fell deeply in love. Royal records show he lavished Catherine with expensive jewels, magnificent dresses, grand palaces, and every luxury imaginable. He even called her, "my rose without a thorn." For a brief moment, Catherine Howard seemed to have everything a queen could ever desire, but inside the Tudor court, happiness rarely lasted. Behind every smile in the palace hid another secret. Every servant listened, every noble watched, every whisper could become a weapon. Unknown to Catherine, people from her past had begun speaking. Old relationships, private conversations, moments she believed had been forgotten forever. One by one, those memories resurfaced. Then came even more serious accusations. Rumors spread that after becoming queen, Catherine had grown dangerously close to Thomas Culpeper, one of Henry VIII's gentlemen. Exactly what happened between them remains one of Tudor history's greatest mysteries. Some historians believe there was an improper relationship. Others argue the surviving evidence leaves important questions unanswered. But in Tudor England, truth was not always what mattered most. Perception could be just as deadly. Once suspicion reached the king, Catherine's future began slipping away. Investigations followed, witnesses were questioned, letters were examined, servants confessed under pressure. The glittering palace that had once celebrated its young queen slowly turned against her. Friends became strangers, supporters disappeared, and Catherine found herself completely alone. When the accusations reached Henry VIII, the news reportedly shattered him. This was the young queen he had adored, the woman he believed had brought joy back into his life. For a short time, disbelief overwhelmed him, but heartbreak soon hardened into anger. Whether driven by wounded pride, fear of betrayal, or pressure from his advisors, the king's decision became final. There would be no forgiveness. Catherine Howard was arrested. The same guards who once bowed before their queen now escorted her as a prisoner. The palace gates closed behind her. She would never return. The Tower of London had witnessed many tragedies. Princes, nobles, queens, now its ancient stone walls welcomed another prisoner. Every morning Catherine awoke knowing one day fewer remained. Imagine the silence. No musicians, no royal banquets. No ladies in waiting, only cold stone walls and the distant sound of guards changing watch. Every hour felt longer than the last. Every sunset reminded her that another dawn was approaching. According to a famous tradition that has survived for centuries, Catherine is said to have asked to see the execution block before her death. Some later accounts even claim she practiced placing her head upon it, saying she wished to die with dignity. Modern historians debate whether this story is entirely true. No contemporary witness recorded it, yet the legend has endured because it captures the courage people believed Catherine found during her final hours, whether fact or legend. It remains one of the most haunting images in Tudor history. Then came the night, the last night. Outside, winter winds swept across the tower. Inside her chamber, sleep must have felt impossible. Perhaps Catherine thought about the day she first entered court. Perhaps she remembered the dazzling jewels, the laughter, the celebrations. Perhaps she remembered the moment Henry VIII smiled at her for the very first time. Did she regret the choices she had made? Did she blame herself? Or did she wonder whether others had betrayed her first? History cannot answer those questions. No diary survives from Catherine's final night. No letter tells us what she truly felt. Only silence remains, and sometimes, silence tells the saddest story of all. Somewhere beyond the tower walls, London continued as usual. Children laughed, merchants prepared for another day. Church bells rang. No one could stop the sunrise that was coming. Inside the tower, a young queen waited for death. Morning finally arrived. February 13, 1542. The heavy wooden door opened. The guards entered. The time had come. Catherine Howard walked calmly toward the scaffold. Eyewitnesses described her as composed. Whatever fear had filled her heart during the night, she faced the final moments with remarkable courage. Standing before those gathered to witness her execution, Catherine acknowledged the sentence and asked those present to pray for her soul. There were no desperate cries, no attempt to escape. Only quiet acceptance. She knelt, placed her head upon the block. The executioner lifted his axe. A single blow ended the life of England's youngest queen. She was likely around 19 years old. Only months earlier she had worn the crown. Now, she was gone. Catherine was buried inside the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula within the Tower of London. There she rested not far from another queen executed during the reign of Henry VIII and Boleyn. Two queens, two tragic endings, one king. For centuries, Catherine Howard's name became a warning. She was remembered simply as the careless queen whose beauty and poor choices destroyed her. But modern historians see a far more complicated picture. Yes, she made mistakes, yet she was also incredibly young, raised in a world that offered little protection. Thrown into a royal court where politics were merciless, surrounded by powerful men whose ambitions often outweighed compassion. In Tudor England, a whisper could become evidence. A suspicion could become a sentence, and a queen could lose everything almost overnight. Perhaps Catherine Howard's story was never just about guilt or innocence. Perhaps it was about youth placed in impossible circumstances. Perhaps it was about power without mercy. Or perhaps it was about a kingdom where survival depended less on truth and more on who controlled the story. Nearly 5 centuries later, Catherine Howard remains one of Tudor history's greatest tragedies. Was she a reckless queen who betrayed her king? Or a frightened teenager crushed beneath the weight of power, politics, and fear? The answer may not be as simple as history books have led us to believe. And maybe. That is why Catherine Howard's final night continues to haunt history to this very day.